Hello, it's Dr. Pat, and we have some amazing animals that you are going to love seeing today. They're one of my favorite animals and very unique in every way. These guys are three-banded armadillos, and they are not your ordinary armadillo. These are different than the ones we see in America, which are the nine-banded armadillos, and we're going to discuss some of those differences today. But first, you need to meet the armadillos. These guys are from Red Mountain Education and Conservation Center. They are a USDA and Arizona Game and Fish licensed and inspected facility. They are well cared for animal ambassadors and part of a rare and endangered breeding program. I said breeding program. Mama is here and baby is here. Have you ever seen a baby armadillo? This is what we look like. It doesn't get much cuter. So Mama came in today and we got her toenails trimmed, and they had overgrown because you didn't want to disturb her while she had the baby. It's really important. These guys can be sensitive animals, and when they have a baby, we don't want to cause stressors, which may cause them to abandon the baby. And so her nails had gotten a bit long, and so she got a pedicure today, and we're taking the opportunity to share these wonderful animals with you. Let's talk about some of the unique features that you're seeing here today. These guys are armored. So we talk about three bands, 1, 2, 3, and these are bands between the shoulder and the pelvic girdle, which is armored. It's a carapace, much like a tortoise would have. The outer layer is keratin, like a fingernail, and under that are osteoderms, which are bony plates. So this is literally armor we're wearing. And the bands allows that armor to allow them to curl up because it stretches as they curl, and you can see we have the skin in between. And these three bands are unique in that the Southern and Brazilian three bands are the only armadillos out of many different kinds of armadillos that can form a very complete little jelly roll. You'll see there's a little gap here because this baby is actually pretty darn well socialized already. They can leave that gap deliberately for predators to stick a nose or a toe in, and then these outer edges are pretty sharp and you can get a finger trapped in there. So it's part of their defensive posture as well. Body armor, feature number 1. Feature number 2, obviously they can roll up, but they actually are part of Xenarthra, and this is actually a name that means strange joints, and it actually fits them pretty perfectly because they have extra articulations between the vertebrae of their spine. The Xenarthra group includes anteaters and sloths, and they do have this strange joint anatomy as well. The posterior joints, the extra vertebrae in the joints, allow them to form a more rigid spine, so then when they're digging, they have actually more digging force. And if you look at Mama here, you can see even after her pedicure, we have some impressive toenails. Why do they need to dig like that? So their natural diet in the wild is going to be ants and termites, and they're going to dig through the mounds and look for dinner. They're really based more on olfactory senses, or their little noses, and less so on their eyesight. Some other features that are unique to these guys: they only give birth to one young. That's the three-banded. But what I want to share with you is also the nine-banded, or the American species. The nine-banded have two pretty unique features. Obviously 9 bands, sometimes less or more. They cannot curl up into a rigid ball, but reproductively, very different. They actually have one egg, no, not like a chicken egg. The egg is actually an ova like a dog or a human would have. And that ova, when it's fertilized by the male in a 9-banded, can go through what's called diapause, where they can pause pregnancy. The fertilized egg is in the reproductive tract, and if environmental conditions aren't good, well, they just decide to hold off on pregnancy for a bit, or a few years. It's a pretty incredible adaptation that allows them to actually gestate the pregnancy by implanting the egg when the environmental conditions are best for that young. The other amazing thing that we see in the 9-bandeds, and the 3 bands do not share that, is that one single egg splits into 4 identical quadruplets. So when you see a litter or a roll of the 9-bandeds, they're identical. Pretty incredible animals in almost every way. The teeth on the armadillos are very unique as well. So they actually grow continuously throughout their life. They don't have separate types of teeth like we see in dogs, where you have canines, premolars, molars. They actually have more peg-like teeth, great for eating insects. They grow continuously and they don't have enamel on them at all. Very unique feature in almost every way. The underside of these armadillos is actually soft tissue, and it is easily damaged by a predator, and so this defensive posture protects their head, with their little armor on their head, and all the underside as well as the face, the eyes, and the ears. And it's a great defensive mechanism against other animals because they armor up, no one can get inside that armor, and they're thought to be safe. The problem is it's not a defensive mechanism against humans. And so what happens in the wild with these guys is they'll armor up and ball up and just lay there. They don't go into a burrow, they don't try to escape. And then people that are hunting them can just pick them up and take the whole animal home. And it's led to not only the problems with their loss of their habitat, but obviously with loss of many animals as well. I think we should all appreciate what amazing, unique animals these are and protect not only them and their environment going forward. A lot of people, when they hear armadillos, think leprosy. That's an important point to bring forward. The 9-banded armadillos are known to carry leprosy. It's not in all of them. It's thought to be in about 20% of them. But you're always taught as a child, don't touch the armadillos. You can get leprosy. And I will say that's true in the sense that you shouldn't touch any wild animal, including armadillos. And yes, there is a leprosy risk. And an important point, the armadillos got leprosy from humans. It's a human strain that they harbor. They did not inoculate a human population with that. But never touch or handle a wild animal. There's always diseases and dangers for the animal and for yourself, so try to avoid them. The other thing we tend to see in armadillos is when they're startled, particularly in the 9-bandeds, they'll often jump up. And that jump up will often allow them to be injured by cars. And so it's very common in the area that my husband grew up in the South, where you would see a lot of car damage to these guys where they just didn't make it because they jump up and curl into a ball where they're hitting the underside of the car. So if you're driving in areas where armadillos are endemic, go slowly, watch for them, realize they're not fast animals and they're not the sharpest knives in the drawer. Just think about them, try to respect them, and just get out of their way because they probably won't be able to get out of your way. And then the other thing that we've kind of shown here is this body armor, this keratin, they can feel. They can feel through here quite readily, and you can see they actually really, really like a butt rub. If you watch Mama, she'll lean into our hand waiting for a good butt scratch. Oh, I forgot to do it for baby. This is because this is keratinized tissue. These little areas here we call scutes, just like we would in a tortoise or a reptile. And these scutes are part of their armor mechanism, forming this hard outer keratin shell. But remember, I said there are osteoderms under here, so there's bone under here. So if this carapace is injured, we have bone injuries. It's very severe, not something we would ever take lightly with them. And then you can see on the underside, if he lets us look here, we got these little tiny hairs on the underside. And if you look at the baby, we have teensy tiny little black hairs on the carapace, kind of irregularly scattered around. Pretty darn cute. These are wonderful animals. In the wild, they're eating ants and termites. In captivity, typically they're on an insectivore diet with added insects to that diet.
Vegetables
and
as well,
vegetable matter as well. The idea is that we try to, anything that may be missing in one part of the diet, we try to pick up in the other part of the diet, and so we give them some diversity. We should never just be feeding them insects and nothing else. An interesting veterinary fact about these guys, they have an extremely low metabolism, and their average temperature tends to be about 91 degrees. And why that's pertinent from a veterinary perspective is that they're going to metabolize drugs and anesthetics much differently and much slower than a similar mammal like a dog or a cat. And so you need to understand that in their metabolisms to be able to dose them safely and correctly if any procedure is needed. An important point, even though you're just looking at this little ball, these are very active animals. They are primarily nocturnal, but they're going to be walking and looking for insects throughout the whole night and being very busy. Their enclosure and their care within that enclosure is really important. We need enrichment to be able to dig and search for things just like we would in the wild, and lots of room to be able to roam around. How did armadillos get into America in the first place, you may ask? I'm going to tell you, they swam here. Crazy as that sounds, armadillos can swim. And we were just discussing with Red Mountain that one of the theories is the 9-banded armadillos, which are the native ones to the US, actually swam across the Rio Grande. So how do they swim? They actually gulp air through a process called aerophagia. That air goes into their gastrointestinal tract, expands buoyancy. They also get water up under their armor for buoyancy, and then they swim. It's crazy but true, and one day I want to see it in person. We've established, I think beyond all doubt, that these are truly unique animals. They wear body armor. They can inflate and swim. They have extra articulations in their spine. They can decide if they want to carry a pregnancy and then decide to postpone it and carry it later on in life. That's the 9-banded. Pretty amazing animals in every way. So you may ask, how long do these guys live? Typically, we think of these guys living in managed care about 15 to 20 years. There is a report of one armadillo from a zoo that lived to be 37.8 years old. And that's probably due to their very low metabolism. The low metabolism is reflected in the low body temperature and probably the longer lifespan as well. And obviously that animal had great care, just like these guys do. I wish that you guys could feel these little armadillos like we're feeling them here today. They have these scutes and this hard keratin, and then in between these 3 bands, they have skin allowing them to expand, much like you might have in some pants if you needed some adjustments. But if you feel the skin in between, it's just butter soft. They're surprisingly soft. These are great little animals and so unique. We should work to protect them and their habitat.